Welcome to 21st Sports recap and reaction for Game 2 of the NLDS between the Chicago Cubs and the St. Louis Cardinals, played October 10th, 2015. We're going to go over every at-bat. We're going to go over the stats and give our breakdown and analysis. So starting off on the mound for St. Louis, Jaime Garcia, and for the Cubs, Kyle Hendricks. Garcia got Fowler to ground out. Soler then got a double. And then Bryant and Rizzo struck out. And that did it for the top of the first. So then in the bottom of the first, Hendricks let up a leadoff home run to Matt Carpenter as he went deep, going 421 feet over the center field wall. And it was 1-0 St. Louis over Chicago. Piscotty then struck out. Holiday flew out. And Hayward grounded out. And that would do it for the first inning, but not after the Cards had put a run on the scoreboard to take the early lead. But then in the top of the second, all heck broke loose. Castro got a single, and then Jackson reached on a fielder's choice as Castro was out at second. So now Jackson would end up getting to second on an error, and then he ended up stealing third base. So now Montero would walk. Then Hendricks, with runners on the corners, pulled off the safety squeeze as he bunted and brought in Jackson. Montero went to second, and then Hendricks ended up reaching second, and Montero was safe at third on an error by Garcia. So now Russell would come up, and he ended up sacrificing as well as he would bring in Montero, and Hendricks would go to third. And then it's right there, we had back-to-back safety squeezes as he bunted. So runners on the corners and back-to-back safety squeezes is something that does not happen often, especially back-to-back. And it's now 2-1 with the Cubs taking the lead. So now Fowler would come up, and he ended up reaching on an infield single, and Hendricks scored, and it was 3-1. Now Soler came up, and Soler hit a 2-run shot over the center field wall, 413 feet, and it was 5-1. So the Cubs just put up 5 runs in the second inning, and none of them were earned. Except I would think the home run would be earned, but they did not rule it any earned runs, actually, because they should have been out the inning. So anyway, Bryant grounded out, and that would do it for the Cubs in the top half of the second. So it's 5-1 going to the bottom of the second. Hendricks still on the mound for the Cubs, and he would set down the side in order. Peralta grounded out, Moss struck out, and Molina flew out. So now in the top of the third, Lynn came in to relieve Garcia. Garcia was done for the day. He allowed 5 runs, although 0 earned runs. So he had 2 errors in the inning. Also, Jackson reaching on the fielder's choice, so that was not an earned run either. But anyway, so Rizzo walked, Castro then singled, and now Jackson struck out. Montero then grounded out, but that brought Rizzo in. As now the Cubs had put up their 6th run of the game to extend their lead to 5 with the score 6-1, Cubs over the Cards. Hendricks would then strike out, and that would bring us to the bottom of the third. And so now Hendricks on the mound for the Cubs struck out Wong. And then John Jay would pinch hit for Lynn. He struck out. Carpenter then popped out, and that would do it for the third. So now in the top of the fourth, Villanueva on the mound for St. Louis relieving Lynn. And he got Russell to ground out. Fowler grounded out. Soler then walked. And then Bryant grounded into a fielder's choice with Soler out at second. So now into the bottom of the fourth. Hendricks still on the mound for the Cubs. Piscotty got a leadoff single. Holiday then flew out, Hayward grounded out, and Peralta struck out. So now on to the fifth. Villanueva still on the mound for St. Louis. You got Rizzo to fly out, Castro grounded out, Jackson then lined out as Villanueva set the side down in order in the top half of the fifth. So now the bottom of the fifth. Hendricks still on the mound for the Cubs, struck out Moss, and then he struck out Molina. And then Colton Wong went deep, 410 feet over the right field wall, and it was now 6-2. Grichuk then pinch hit for Villanueva, and Randall Grichuk with the back-to-back jacks. That's the 2 solo shots in the bottom of the fifth. It was 6-3, a 3-run game, as all 3 runs for the Cards came off the long ball. So now Wood would come in to relieve Hendricks, as Hendricks was done for the day after 4 2/3 innings. Carpenter then struck out as Travis Wood set him down swinging. So that would do it for the fifth, but not after the Cards had added 2 runs and made the game a 3-run game at 6-3 with the Cubs still in the lead. So now Seth Maness would come out to pitch for the Cards in relief of Villanueva. He would set down the side in order as he got Montero to ground out, Wood struck out, and Russell grounded out. So now on to the bottom of the sixth. Wood still on the mound for Chicago. He set the side down in order as well as he got Piscotty to strike out, Holiday flew out, and Hayward grounded out. So now on to the seventh. Maness still on the mound for the Cards. Fowler led off with a double. Soler then walked, and then Bryant grounded into a fielder's choice. Soler out at second, Fowler safe at third, so runners on the corners. And Maness was done for the night as Adam Wainwright would come in to relieve him. And Ringwhite got Rizzo to line out, and then Castro grounded out, leaving the runner stranded at third. So now on to the bottom of the seventh. Travis Wood still on the mound for the Cubs. Denorfia in right field as a substitution on defense. Peralta then flew out to center. Reynolds then pinch hit for Moss, and he flew out. Molina then singled, and then Wong lined out. So now on to the top of the eighth. Reynolds in at first base. Jackson struck out swinging. Montero struck out looking. And then Schwarber would pinch hit for Woods, and he struck out as well as Wainwright struck out the side in the top of the eighth. Then the bottom of the eighth, Trevor Cahill on the mound for the Cubs would come in to relieve Travis Wood. Garcia would pinch hit for Wainwright. He grounded out. Carpenter struck out, and Piscotty struck out. And so Cahill set the side down in order in the bottom of the eighth, and onto the top of the ninth. Jonathan Broxton in for the Cards to relieve Wainwright. He set the side down in order as he set down Russell with a grounder. Fowler grounded out as well, and Denorfia struck out. So on to the bottom of the ninth. Hector Rondon in to close this one out for the Cubs in relief of Cahill. He got Holiday to ground out. Hayward then reached on an infield single. It was quite the hit. Russell fielded it, but he wasn't able to make the play. Now Peralta would end up grounding it to a fielder's choice. Hayward was out at second, the lead runner. So now Reynolds came to the plate, and he grounded out, and this game came to a close as Rondon picks up the save. And the Cardinals go down, and the Cubs even up the series 1-1 with the win, 6-3 in St. Louis, as they now take home field advantage in this series, as the next 2 games will be played in Chicago, as the Cubs will have a chance to end the series without having to go back to St. Louis. St. Louis is going to have to win one into Chicago to get back to St. Louis for Game 5 potentially, although they could also potentially win the next 2 games. It's anyone's game, and we'll see what happens when they play those games. But the series now evened up 1-1 as the Cubs get a big win on the road. And the relief pitching of Chicago was amazing in this game as they pitched 4 1/3 shutout innings in this game after Hendricks left in the 5th. Hendricks 4 2/3 innings pitched, 7 strikeouts, 3 earned runs off of 4 hits, no walks allowed. And those 3 runs did come off of solo shots. And that's the thing right there. You see the difference between the long ball and playing small ball. In the second inning, the Cubbies played small ball. They had those safety squeezes. They were forcing those errors. That was the thing with the Cardinals. Were having some troubles on defense in this game throughout the game. They did make some good defensive plays too, but they had a lot more bad defensive plays where at least those stood out more. Those mistakes that they were making that came up costly, especially in that second inning, and the Cubs were able to take advantage. They said they just kept, stringing things together, whether reaching on that fielder's choice, also taking advantage of those errors, and then the safety squeezes, and they ended up putting up 5 runs in that second inning. And that would be all they need. They did add another one later on, to make it 6 runs in the third. And then all the St. Louis's runs came off of home runs. So the long ball is not as consistent. Small ball, you get that going, you're more likely to string some hits together at some point during a game to put runs on the board. Whereas when you live and die on the long ball, then you get into the situation where hey, you got 3 home runs, but they only produced 3 runs. All of them were solo shots. So you got to get guys on base, got to hit for contact. Of course, St. Louis can play either way, but in this game, we saw was the long ball was their offense. So they really couldn't get much going. Really good pitch in by Chicago from the starter, even though he didn't go the full 5, so he wasn't able to get the win, as Travis Wood would end up picking up the win for the Cubs. Of course, Garcia was on the line for the loss for St. Louis, and Rondon got the save. Both teams 6 hits in the game. Like I said, the Cubs strung their hits together, also taking advantage of those errors. And they also, the 2-run shot by Soler didn't hurt either. So they did get, a little long ball mixed in with the small ball. But let's look at the numbers, though. As I just went over Hendricks a moment ago, but also Wood, who got the win, pitched 2 1/3 innings of shutout ball in relief, only allowing 1 hit. He had 2 strikeouts, no walks. Cahill, 1 inning, 2 strikeouts, no walks, no hits, no runs. And Rondon with the save coming in the 9th, the 1 inning, and he allowed, no earned runs. He did allow 1 hit, but he did not walk anyone, and he saved the game. And on the other side for St. Louis, Garcia, 2 innings. He did not last long in this game, because once they got on him, you saw he was just... the pressure got to him, just the offense of Chicago, everything was just getting to him. He even made that error, and he ended up leaving after the 2nd. They didn't count him as earned runs, they said, because of the errors, also the fielder's choice. But so it was 5 runs off 4 hits, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts, and a home run allowed by Garcia. And then Lynn pitched an inning. He allowed an earned run, 1 hit, and he also had 2 strikeouts and a walk. Villanueva, he actually did a pretty good job in relief. 2 innings pitched, 1 walk, no hits, no earned runs. Manus, 1 1/3, no earned runs, 1 hit, 1 walk, 1 strikeout. Wainwright, I thought, looked very impressive in this game. And that was actually a bright spot for St. Louis, but they're going to have to get out of this series to take advantage of that. But it's something that maybe potentially down the road, Wainwright could end up making a big difference in the playoffs. Possibly. The way he was pitching this game, like I said, it shows they got kind of an ace in the hole there with him. But 1 2/3 innings, 3 strikeouts, no hits, no earned runs, no walks for Wainwright. And Broxton, 1 inning pitched, no earned runs, no hits, 1 strikeout, no walks. And we look at the offense for Chicago. Fowler, 2 for 5 in the leadoff spot, 1 RBI, 1 run scored. Soler, 2 for 2. He had that home run, that 2-run shot with the 2 RBIs, 1 run scored. He also walked twice. A really good night for Soler. Well, good day, actually, as it were. And then Castro, 2 for 4. And Montero, 0 for 3, but he did have the RBI and the run. He walked. He also had a strikeout. Hendricks also had an RBI and a run, although he was 0 for 1 in the game and had a strikeout. And on the other side, for St. Louis, it was really just those solo shots. Carpenter, 1 for 4 with the RBI, 1 run, 2 strikeouts. Piscotty, 1 for 4, 3 strikeouts in the game. Hayward, 1 for 4. And then Molina, 1 for 3 with a strikeout. Wong, 1 for 3. He had that solo shot, the 1 RBI, 1 run off the home run. And then Grichuk, 1 for 1 off the bench with that pinch hit home run. Back-to-back jack, the 1 RBI. So Chicago, even up the series, a huge win for them. And you see them taking advantage of those mistakes, playing the small ball. And like I say, small ball is what gets you far in the postseason. They keep playing small ball like this, keep getting those runs on the board. They're sitting pretty with it 1-1. Splitting in St. Louis is huge for the Cubs. It also breaks a 7-game losing streak for them in the NLDS, as they had been swept the previous 2 times in the postseason in the NLDS. They had a 9-game winning streak at the end of the season, including the wild card game before St. Louis beat them in Game 1, but now they get back in the win column. Now they've won 10 out of their last 11 games, and now they're heading to Chicago for 2 games with Jake Arrieta on the mound, so they got to like where they're at right there. In St. Louis, they're going to have to win one in Chicago if they want to bring this one back to back to Missouri. So we'll see what happens. But let me know what you think in the comments section below. Definitely interested to read your thoughts and opinions. Thank you very much for listening. It is greatly appreciated. I hope you're having a good day and had a great week and have a great weekend and enjoy all the sports.